What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more David Bowie, and we're returning to his 1967 self-titled album. Thank you again to Judith, and as I've mentioned before, we're working from a slightly incomplete playlist, meaning there's 9 tracks in the folder. I think the original version of the album had 14 tunes. I think the original North American version of the record was reduced to 12. I think there's other releases of this album that have 12 tracks, but different from the original 12 on the North American release. So yeah, there's a number of variants of this album out there, but the one I'm working from has 9 tracks, and the next track in the playlist I have is Join the Gang. It feels like an entreaty or maybe a statement from someone outside even, but either way, the idea of joining a group of people who are engaged in a particular activity, a particular endeavor, and that could be more literal, or it could be a more figurative expression for, yeah, get with it, get with the times and start realizing and taking part in what other people are already doing. Given that this album, from what I understand, I remember Mark talking about this, comes from a music hall tradition where there's a theatrical element, and it's a bit different from his, more psychedelic rock that would come later. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a full-fledged narrative here, and whatever gang is around and whatever joining them would mean might be explained more fully. Either way, I'll see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is David Bowie. The track is Join the Gang, and it's from his 1967 self-titled album.
Let me introduce you to the gang. Johnny plays the sitar, he's an existentialist. Once he had a name, now he plays our game. You won't feel so good now that you've joined the gang. Molly is the model in the ads. Crazy clothes and acid, full of soul and crazy hip. Someone switched her on, then her beam went wrong. Cause she can't switch off now that she's joined the gang. Arthur is a singer with a band. Arthur drinks 2 bottles just before he goes on stage. Look at Arthur rave, all the kids obeyed. They want to see the croaking man who joined the gang. You won't be alone, we've all got beery grins. It's a big illusion, but at least you're in. At least you're in. This club's called The Web, it's this month's pick. Next month we shall find a place where prices ain't so stiff. 15 bob a coke, pray that's past a joke. This is how to spend now that you've joined the gang. This is what to do now that you're here. Sit round doing nothing altogether very fast. Psychedelic stars throwing down cigars. They're picking up the joints now that they've joined the gang.
Incredible. It's clever, it's witty, it's knowledgeable of cultural trends, it speaks to hedonism in different ways, but also maybe a bit too self-aware, philosophical attitude, and then a sort of stark reality that, joining means you actually have to conform to these certain ways of being and how to spend your money and how to treat your brain, and depending on whether that's alcohol before you go up on stage or a little LSD, which will make your mind maybe never come back, or perhaps picking up joints. And obviously joint can mean like a tune, a song, but it can also mean a cigarette of the marijuana, and thus it feels like there's a sarcasm or a critical wit that is describing these different people in the gang, and this idea that they're existentialist, but they're also, again, hedonist, and in the end, they don't really do much of anything, but if you join, you actually have to be just like that. You can't, carve out your own niche, which seems to go against the idea of existentialism. It all seems very zany and silly, maybe highlighted most significantly by someone chewing crisps, which is funny. Like, you have an idea for that part of the track. Well, who is it? Bowie? Like, who's the one who actually gets right up by a mic and is crunching very loudly on some chips, as we would call them here? And I don't know what that crazy instrument was at the end, or what was making that sound, but it sounds like everything's going off the rails a bit, which seems to fit with the mental state of several members of the gang. So yeah, references to 60s drug culture, psychedelia, but also again, a bit too self-consciously clever philosophical group of people who studied at university but are trying to be outside the lines of the establishment and take what they've learned and live it in a sort of kind of carpe diem, but Epicureanism taken too far type of manner. So it's all very funny, all very clever, and the Sonics were very energetic. It had a bit of an early rock and roll feel mixed with a bit of like blues, or maybe not blues, but almost like ragtime piano. Like, just the sonic influences were as interesting as the lyrics on display. So yeah, a lot going on in the tune. Really interested to hear what people have to say about this one. Luke is too, despite sleeping through it all. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.